Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to share with you a few zero waste toiletries and wellness type things that you could do, especially if you're still watching this while it is locked down. So the first and most simple one is a vinegar rinse. This would be like a little treatment after you've washed your hair, and you just would use it and not wash it out again. So you kind of just pour it over your head just before you finish your shower or bath. So for that I used apple cider vinegar. I would just get a little jug, pour a bit of that in, fill it up with some warm water, and then when I've washed my hair, tip my head down, rinse it all off and just leave that on there, and it makes your hair, gets rid of any excess build-up, especially if you're using a shampoo bar, but it also gives it a lot of shine. And if you happen to have some rosemary, what you can do is pop the rosemary in some vinegar and let it steep for a few days and then use the vinegar, and then you get the properties of the rosemary. But you know, you don't have to do that. I'm not always organised enough to do that and think ahead, but I always have the vinegar to hand. The next is to make a deodorant, but I will show you it now. It's changed slightly from my original recipe because now I've got cocoa butter at home. I just chuck a chunk of that in, but otherwise it's exactly the same. And you may have noticed I'm making it in a much larger quantity than I used to, so that it lasts me sort of 3 or 4 months, this amount. But it's very, very cheap to make because it only contains 3 main ingredients. So they are bicarbonate of soda. So if you're making this for one of those little jam jars like you get at restaurants with the jam in kind of this size, you would use 1 tablespoon of bicarbonate of soda, 1 tablespoon of corn flour, and then you would add melted coconut oil to make it into a paste, and then stir it in together until it's kind of like thick cream or runny cream. You can make it how you want. In the summer it's quite melty, and then decant it into a pot. If you wanted to add a scent to it, I'm not an aromatherapist, so I can't tell you exactly how many drops. You'd have to look up the dilution ratio, but I just add a few drops of tea tree or lemon, or you could add lavender. But the deodorant's brilliant. I was really freaked out by the thought of making my own deodorant. It was I used to use really strong deodorant and I was absolutely convinced I needed antiperspirant, and then about 6 or 7 years ago, it must be, I stopped using it and moved on to making my own, and honestly, smells really good, and your body adapts quite fast to homemade product. The other benefit of it is that the coconut oil makes your armpits really soft, so that's really lovely. So that is deodorant. Another really easy thing to make if you're starting to make some toiletries is to make a multi-purpose balm. It's made in a really similar way to the deodorant, but you just would use 1 tablespoon of beeswax, or I'm vegan, so I use candelilla. I've never had to say it out loud. Candelilla wax. So I just use a tablespoon of that, or beeswax, and then you would top it up with 4 tablespoons of oil, and you can choose the oil of your choice. So for example, I use this one for my lips, and I use I think I use almond oil because it's for nails as well, and it's particularly good for cuticles, almond oil. If you wanted to use the multi-purpose balm for wood, for example, so as a furniture polish, obviously don't use the same batch that you're using on your face, on your body, but make a separate batch and label it clearly. But you could use olive oil for that because that tends to be really good for furniture. And all you would do is place your wax pellets and your oil into a bowl and set that over a pan of hot water so it's not touching it, so a bain-marie, and just allow that to melt slowly, and then you can tip it into a container. And it's a really good way of reusing old jars or little tins, and if you get good at making it, you could do it as presents. So that's so nice. Yes, so a multi-purpose balm is brilliant, and you can also make it in bigger quantities. I just gave you a smaller quantity so that you would be able to put it into a smaller container. That will probably fit a container about this size. I showed you this one because this is the one I have it in, but I split it between 2 because I like to have some for my hands when I'm watching TV downstairs, and then I have some for my bed for putting my lips before I go to sleep. So I split my batch. But that's a really easy thing to make for yourself. And the other suggestion is, if you run out of shampoo, to think about reusing your bottle that you've had your shampoo in and possibly being able to refill it. If we're looking at this during lockdown, that's not possible. So you might be able to save that bottle, and when we're out of lockdown, to then reuse the bottle. But the other option is to consider using shampoo bars, which come with no plastic packaging. Usually they come in a little cardboard box or wrapped in paper. They look like a bar of soap, and they're really good for washing your hair. They're particularly good for if you're travelling or you work away from home and things like that. Normally they're very handy for that, but you can use them, and they tend to look really expensive for a bar of soap. That's one thing I would say. But obviously you're going to wash your hair with it, and depending on how often you wash your hair, they actually last a really long time. The only caveat I would add to shampoo bars is that you have to experiment to find one that suits you, and it could be quite a pricey thing to do. So some places will let you have a small sample to try, and it's definitely worth asking if you could have like a travel size piece to start with to see if it suits your hair, so that you don't end up wasting anything. But that would mean that in the future you don't need any plastic bottles of shampoo. That would be amazing. So I hope that these few beauty toiletry type things are useful to you. I can share some more again if you're interested in these. Do give me a thumbs up if you do like it, so that I know, and I will try and share some more in the future. I hope you have a lovely day, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.